Welcome to a Celtic State of Mind live full-time reaction of Celtic 4, Chelsea 1. No, I didn't get too excited at all. I'm not going to get too excited, but there's the Champions League final, right? Where is the Champions League final? Where's the Super Bowl? Well, here's everything. We're going to win the lot next year after watching that night. We're going to win the lot.
Yeah, it's hard to not get carried away with that, but you have to remember it's just preseason. But it's, like I said, it's great to see the players at it. It's good that they got a little bit more of a run out. I'm happy to see players like Palma continue to contribute. I like seeing him track back. It's nice. Last year we relied on so few players, and it's nice. We still need to get bodies into this team, but it's nice to see some of the ones on the periphery contribute a little bit more. It puts a little bit of confidence that this team has a little bit more depth going into it. So, but I'll take it. And I keep on saying this over and over again from a US perspective, from an awareness perspective, to come here and to score 12 goals, to beat teams like Chelsea and Man City. It's going to do great for the growth and awareness for Celtic. So I hope they can capitalize on it.
Definitely, JT comes in and says, win the gold medal. Send us to Paris. We'll win anything. Equestrian events, gymnastics, a whole lot. We're going to win everything. Everything in front of us. It must be great. I'm quite glad you actually says for an American Celtic fan perspective how good that is for you and how good it will be for the boys in the stadium singing Can You Hear the Chelsea Sing? I love hearing that. That's an old school one. An old school song. That brilliant. It's been really, really good for Celtic off the park, I think, as well as the stuff that we've got on the park.
Absolutely, and I know that the foundation's been doing a lot of stuff in the community, so it's nice to make more inroads there. I'm involved in the foundation, especially very much in their New York event, and a lot of what they do and what they raise for obviously helps out across the globe. But making more inroads into the U.S. From a sporting perspective and also from a charitable perspective, because that's the foundation this club is built on. It's just great to see. So it's wonderful. It's I think the club and everyone involved could not have hoped for more. I think the only thing that we are hoping for is just more arrivals coming in the door, and just would like to see that sooner rather than later.
We will get to that, because we need to get to that now, because that's the pre-season finished. There's no any other games unless we have a behind closed doors games arranged this week. We might have one, who knows, because we did have a game against Burnley, which nobody knew about until the day before. So they might arrange a behind closed doors. I'm going to bring in this with Leanne. Great to hear the Rebs getting chanted too and the Royals getting it tight. That's what the Celtic support's all about. It doesn't matter if you're in Glasgow, Dublin, Paris, or Notre Dame, Indiana.
South Bend, Indiana. Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter. The Royals and the Royals and the Rebs are going to the Royals are going to get it tight, and the Rebs are going to get sung. And I'm more than happy about that. The game itself. First 11 minutes were a bit wild. Chelsea were the better team in the first 11 minutes. Casper kept us in it. We had a couple of chances in that spell as well. Then the game sort of settled down, and our superior fitness and structure took over. The start of the second half was a bit of the same. Chelsea were the better team. They had a few chances, but once the game settled down again, we looked like what we were. A few weeks in front of them. They still created a few chances, but they're an elite level side, same as Man City. It doesn't matter if you're 4 weeks, 5 weeks in front of them. Teams at that level are going to cut you open at some point, and they've done that. But we controlled them. We controlled the majority of that game, and 4-1 probably doesn't flatter us whatsoever.
No, I mean, it should have been 4-0 at the halftime. I mean, you got to think Kyogo had a chance missed, and there was another one Kyogo shot, and he should have, squared it to James Forrest at the back post. So, it could have been very easily 4-0 going, and obviously it could have been 4-2 with how Castro was, but that's just how these games pan out. It was interesting to see in the beginning of the second half when Chelsea were kind of not so much in control the way they the first half. They just were holding on to the ball more. it almost seemed like the team was instructed not to press as much. They were holding back a bit. And again, I know Brendan in the last few press conferences talking about not just how they press, but when they press. And I was just wondering if that was some instructions there, and just to sit back and see how the team does, and kind of see how the team holds their shape.
I wondered if it was a tactical thing. I wondered if they say, go and sit in, we work on the shape for a wee while, because Champions League, and that's what we're looking at. We're looking at Champions League level, right? At Champions League level, you're not going to have a lot of the ball. So let's go in there and let them settle down, have the shape, and let's see what we can do. I also thought Chelsea were less loose in the second half as well. Obviously, Maresca had a wee bit of a word with them as well and told them to calm down a bit. But I was the fact that the majority of the first team players got about 70 minutes made me think in the second half this was a training exercise with Rodgers in the second half, the way that we played in the second half. And that's what pre-season games are for. They're for trying out stuff like that to see if it works, see who steps up, see what actually needs to work on. We spoke about it at half time, but there's over 1,000 people on there now. So there's over 1,000 people sitting at 7 minutes past 11 on a Saturday night wanting some Celtic chat. So Kasper Schmeichel, that's the first time I've seen him for us. Second game, he looks like an upgrade on Joe Hart on that performance. If you take that only, the saves that he made, and especially with the ball at his feet, he looks like an upgrade on Joe Hart. And I still love Big Joe, but we have to call it as we see it after for me, 60 minutes of football.
Yeah, and like you said earlier in the earlier stream, he is 5 months older, but 37 to one and 37 to the other is different. I mean, we saw how Aaron Moy had to call it quits. Was he 32 just because of his injuries and stuff like that? As you know, the body does something different on each player, so Kasper can just be in a better spot. But I think I picked out the most too his distribution, and I think that's the biggest thing too. We talk a lot about players like Scales and players like Taylor, who at times can do things to put us under pressure that we're not under. If Joe Hart's distribution was pretty limited to just playing quickly to someone else in the back line, that means it's more often going to go to someone like Scales, who's going to be put under pressure and have to make decisions. And I was just noting Kasper, he would play it to Scales, he would play it out to the fullbacks, he would play it out to Rio or to Kalmack. He would spread it wide. In fact, there's one point where we were put on a little bit of pressure, and I saw, Schmeichel put his foot through it. I thought, okay, he's just under pressure. He's clearing out fear. But no, he played a pinpoint pass to Matt O'Reilly on the right wing. So I think that variety and distribution is going to take a lot of the pressure off of the players like Scales, who, let's be honest, isn't in this team to distribute the ball. He's in this team to defend. So I'm excited about that, taking that risk away.
Definitely. And that stood out. It really did stand out for us. He was agile. There was a number of different saves. He wasn't as close to the microphone in the second half as what he was in the first half, because some of his shouts in the first half were brilliant, really good. And you could see they were all positive shouts as well. He had command of that box, and he was positive with Scales, Taylor, Tony, CCV, and that as well. And he's. We lost a leader, but we seem to have got another one. That is very, very important.
Exactly, and it's like I said, it's a leader off the pitch and off the park and on the park, and I think that's what this team needed. And I would think, I was a midfielder or winger in my playing days, but I would think as a defender, you want that presence behind you, shouting at you, telling you what's going on, kind of giving you that comfort behind you. And I think that was one of the biggest things going back to the days of Barkas. If you look at the profile of every keeper we've had up until then and afterwards, it was a presence, vocal, that kind of shepherd his back line. And it's nice to see that. I knew he'd come in with that experience in the dressing room. I've never seen enough of him play to see how he would be, vocally on the pitch. It's great to see him there and kind of shouldering the burden with Kalmack and some of the other players.
Definitely. There's quite a few comments coming. I'm going to bring them up. Kevin Malley, Schmeichel's passes into the midfield were top class. That's something that you mentioned, Brian, as well. The amount of times that he found a Tatty and McGregor and in tight spaces, and he was confident enough to give them the ball as well. And Greg Taylor, a number of times when Greg Taylor dropped into that midfield role as well. And Maestro 95, I really feel that Casper and playing from the back draws teams on, and balls into the midfield open us up. That's one thing. We're not going to play teams with the intensity in Man City who will want to press us until we play Champions League level football. That is just a fact. That is just a fact. But you can draw teams on top of you as long as your transition is really, really quick. Then you can drag them out, and that's what I really like as well. Even though Chelsea are pressing high, we still press them high as well and cause them havoc at times. And that's what we've got to do in domestic football. We've got to turn, when we get the ball back, we've got to turn it over quick. Yeah,
and it's nice to see that press coming from a bunch of different places. I thought obviously we expect it from Kyogo, we expect it from Maeda. I've always thought O'Reilly's been great with the press. I think Hatate's been a little bit better. Sometimes last season I felt like he was just running around aimlessly trying to press. While I don't think he was as effective, at least Palma put in a shift. I think his biggest complaint he got, especially from this community, has been more of lack of effort. And when something doesn't go his way, he smiles and just kind of walks off it. But you saw him make a few mistakes and kind of get gritty and kind of put his eye back into it. And then for me, I know he only had a wee bit of a cameo the last 15 minutes. I've been really impressed with Holm this preseason. If he's not intended to be into this team a little bit more and kind of bedded into it, then I hope he goes and he does, goes to a loan to a team that's playing him week in, week out. Because I think we have a player on there and he controls it well, but his press is really well. He can win the ball and kind of move it quickly, which is great to see.
It is great to see. And I would write off Hatate last season because he spent the majority injured. And it's really quite hard for a player to be out for so long and try to get back in and up to speed. And he was always kind of trying to chase his tail, really, even trying to get back into the team, trying to get up to fitness. And he is going to be a really, really valuable player for us. We've got to talk about the elephant in the room, which is Matt O'Reilly. And it's a worry that it's more than likely come the 31st of August that he won't be a Celtic player. On tonight's evidence, it's going to be a struggle to replace. We can't replace him. But we may as well just say that now. We will be able to replace him. And we've got to hope that somebody steps up as he goes. It could well be a Tati. It could well step up. But O'Reilly, Hatate and McGregor tonight were utterly superb against top quality opposition. And what I really loved about them was when Chelsea pressed, they could play through the press. They could play through. They had the ability to play through that press. That's too many E's time of night. And that was really, really impressive. And if any scouts are watching, that wasn't Matt O'Reilly. That wasn't Matt O'Reilly. It was actually playing for us. That was Boston Lowell. So
that was Mikey Johnson's number 33 on our team.
Mikey Johnson was number 33.
He got a wee bit taller and more handsome over the summer if you're looking for someone. So no, it's right. It gives us that confidence just because you're not going to be able to play it slowly in the Champions League. You're going to need to be a little bit more brave. You're going to need to kind of spread the team out and feel confidence that you can switch it and kind of play quickly. And we saw that. And again, this is why it kind of goes back about the difference between an Ange team and a Brendan team, because I feel like we didn't start seeing a Brendan team until almost after the whole, beaten Hearts debacle last season. And then the team really gelled around that and how they played towards the latter part of the season, but even more now. And it's a lot of their position and how they work together and how the midfield works and the wingers spread. And every single time someone got space, there was 1 or 2 or 3 out balls, which was nice to see. And it's just, they were just kind of playing, and everyone seemed to have an idea of what they needed to do. And for the most part, when the team changed over at around the 70th minute, a lot of those younger players coming in seemed to have an idea of what they needed to do as well, which is good to see.
There's always a worry when we start making those block changes that the team drops off the pace a bit. I thought Turley looked like he knows where he's meant to be. If
Mhm.
that there's intelligence there, he wasn't maybe involved too much, but he looks like he knows where he's meant to be. There was a pace. I'm not too sure about Palmer's dancing after the goal, though. I think somebody else have a word with him, but then I'm just a grumpy middle-aged guy who doesn't like stuff like that. I actually thought he was going to end up in the crowd. I thought.
Yeah.
I actually thought he was going to lob over the barriers and go do that. Uh, Somebody mentioned Odin Home. Again, he made this another wee quality cameo. Charlie B. Home is quality like a younger McGregor. I think that's maybe pushing it a bit, but is there room for Home if we move O'Reilly on?
I think it depends on, I think we can all pretty much assume. I know you can't say it's certain until the deal's done, but that we're going to be bringing in some players there. We're going to be bringing Bernardo in, and the question is Bernardo coming in as a replacement, or Bernardo coming in to kind of fulfill that role that he had before, as kind of adding more to that midfield. I actually completely agree with that comment. I mean, my mind goes back to the championship manager, football manager days where you had a young player and you can literally do a drop down and say, learn from this player. And I would say, learn from McGregor, because I see that with him. He knows a pass, he can move around, but he's got a little bit of that grit. And if I was in training, I would just say, you watch what Calmac does every game, every training, and make that part of your ethos. And I think we'll have an amazing player. I think he's someone that's going to start shining through if we keep him this season, or if we loan him out next season. He's someone that we should continue to invest into.
He's a player. He's a player that's already played over 100 senior games. So he probably needs football. Last season was a sort of stop-start for him. And he's a player that probably needs to go out and play. I'm not 100% sure that he's going to get the minutes with us, but we just need to wait and see. What else? Let's have a wee look at this. We did give up a night. On you go, sorry.
I was just going to say, I know it was difficult because a lot of the changes came in later. It's interesting to see Lagerbielke coming in and not a younger player, because I know we had a few younger defenders on the bench that could have come in there. But this kid Anderson, I was impressed. I thought he did well. And honestly, and not that you're going to have VAR in a preseason game, but if you look at that penalty, I didn't see much contact there. Right? So I'm not. Yeah, I agree. So game should end in 4-0. We were cheated.
I thought the officials were quite poor. I think there was a couple of offside decisions where I looked at when we were in the offside there, and there was a couple of things that he let go. But again, it's a pre-season game. Edward Diver. Kev mentioned Anderson, the boy is great. I thought he done all right when he came on for the 20 minutes. Again, he could probably go on maybe back out and loan if we get Bueno comes in and Greg Taylor stays. Then Anderson could maybe go away, gone out on loan. But I think we've got to actually get to the elephant in the room here. We are going to start next season, and even though we've probably says that Schmeichel looks like an upgrade on Hart, looks like goalkeeping wise an upgrade on Hart, we're starting off next season. Even if this week we sign Ida and Bernardo, we're weaker than what we were last season, or at the minimum we've stood still. And that is an unforgivable state of affairs with the financial health of the club going into next week. And it's quite easy when you watch the games tonight. And I'm not talking about the Scottish League. I'm not talking about the Scottish League. I'm talking about the Champions League. There is areas there that are quite obviously that we need to upgrade.
Yeah.
I thought Greg Taylor was fine tonight. I did think he was fine tonight, but all players have cycles. And I think Greg's maybe come at the end of that cycle as a Celtic player. I love him. I love Greg Taylor. Everybody knows that. We're going to have a wee look at the left-hand sided centre half as well, which looks like we could upgrade. And also we're got the wingers. I'm going to judge it tonight against an elite level. I don't think our wingers have got that against them. I've got that to make that step up. Well, we need two strikers. I mean, sorry, Rodgers has already said that he wants to go with 3 strikers. At the moment, we've actually only got 1 striker. And even though you could have an argument that Rodgers has maybe coached us up a level, right? Some players up a level. We are going to lose O'Reilly. We are going to have injuries during the season, and we have got 8 Champions League games.
Yeah,
we can't let the fact is we're enjoying these games. We actually are enjoying these games at this precise moment in time. But the bottom line is, we need improvements. if we want, and it's improvements not to win the bloody Champions League. It's to finish 23rd in the Champions League.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to think about it. It's, we sit here and we say there was progress last season because we won a game. It's a dead rubber game. It didn't. Yes, it's still progress, but this team, as happy as we've been with preseason and as well as they've been playing, I think if you take this team and take them in the Champions League, it's reality is going to hit you in the face right away. And I think it does come more towards the defense side of the pitch for Celtic. I actually do think the way this team's playing, I feel like the midfield, Kyogo, I think Kuhn's coming into a game. I think Maeda, we know this, he can, his work rate and his pace will harass any defender. And if the ball just ricochets off his shin the right way, then we'll get what we need. But Taylor, I honestly would be interested to see Taylor if his future career is more in the midfield, because his value I see is coming in on the inside, collecting the ball and distributing it. And I think his frailties come is when you ask him to defend. And I think where he's on a side of the defense where he might make a decision here and there when he's in the corner, that puts us under more pressure, and Scales does that. It makes more unnecessary instances that highlight his deficiencies, or especially when someone floats in the ball from the back post. So I think getting in someone on the left-hand side that provides a little bit more of that steal, and it puts a little bit less of us to rely on Maeda to constantly press on that side. And I think that would be hopeful. But you said it as well. I mean, we're looking at this team and we're saying it's great. Maeda Hatate spent his time on the sidelines. McGregor spent some time on the sidelines last season. O'Reilly, he could not even be here by the end of it. We're going so paper thin that we need to kind of fill multiple different positions. And the question is just, do we continue down this path of just kind of holding out and hoping for the players that we've identified and pushing for it? Or do we kind of push the boat out a little bit more and maybe pay a little bit beyond what we think the value is just to get them in now and just to secure them? Because I get too nervous about the hecticness of, the transfer deadline day. All you need is a broken fax machine to not, get the player that you want. So it's going to be an anxious few weeks for us Celtic supporters just to see who's going to be coming in and is the board doing enough to support Brendan and get those players. He said it in his last interview. He was very clear. I almost took it away as, look, lads, I'm focusing on the pitch. I need to get this team ready for the season. It's a week away. We've got some games coming up. We got, Rangers a month away. I need to make sure that the players I have at my disposal are ready. I've already told you who I want. Go and get them. And the question is, are they going to do what they need? And if they don't, I don't think there's that many people. A lot of people were sad that Brendan left last time. If he keeps not getting the targets he's looking for, I don't think any supporter is going to, be as upset with him if he walks out the door again.
No, it's. I took his comment as this. I've gave you the list of players that I want. I've gave you the list of positions. I've gave you the list of players. I'm doing my job. I'm going to go and do my job. You go and do yours.
Mhm.
and I've revved up this bus. And if I haven't got the improvements that I want by the 1st of September, you're
Yeah.
getting thrown under that bus, because I've already says that I've done my job. And I think it was a warning shot over to the board, and they need to actually step up. There is a wee bit of feel good, right? I'm not going to, there is a wee bit of feel good because 3 games in America, it's been great. It's been
Mhm.
a really positive trip. But the bottom line is there's glaring deficiencies in that side.
Right.
There is a glaring, even though folk are gone, there is improvements. HISE technology, not sure. I think Rodgers has coached us up a level, Kev. Coaching improvement also counts as improvement. Not going to argue with that, but I think there's some players that are at their limit, that he can't coach and improve. And I think Rodgers maybe knows that. And I think I'm not going to name the candidates. I'm not going to name the players because it's very, very obvious for all of us who they actually are. If we go with what Rodgers actually says, we're 2 strikers short. We're a left-hand sided centre half short.
Mhm.
Lagerbielke came on. Narovski's probably just blown his chance because he's been injured for the whole of the pre-season. Greg Taylor's in the final year of his contract, so you've got to actually sort that out. We've got wingers who have been inconsistent, and they still look inconsistent. We're not talking about just winning the Scottish League here. We're actually talking about making a dent in Europe. And the
Yeah.
board have got to realise that, and beating Chelsea and Man City in friendlies doesn't change one iota that the board, for me, have actually failed to deliver this pre-season so far. I enjoy the night. It's quite good beating money-rich English clubs. But the bottom line is, we've still to step up. We still
Yeah.
need to step up, and we can't. The board can't go, oh well, you've actually coached us a bit better now, Brendan. Do you really need to spend this money? Aye, we need to spend the money.
Yeah, my only glass half full look on this and hopefulness getting to the end of the window is if you look at how we're taking the position with Matt O'Reilly, we don't need to sell him. We have hunters in the bank, as we say. We don't need to sell him. We have a value for him. Teams are coming in, and we're just saying, thanks for the bid. We're going to wait and see what we can do. My question is, over the past 2 years, even when we've spent money like 4 or 5 million on a defender, 5 million on Barkas, 5.5 on a Yeti. I know those might not be the exact figures, but they're thereabouts. Those are a little bit different. Those are either players coming from leagues where a team like that would say, "Oh, that's we're not used to seeing that type of offer. We'll take it." Or in the case of West Ham, he's Yeti's a player that we don't rate. We'll take 5 million for him. Sure, no problem. I just wonder if the reason we're seeing a little bit of delay here is kind of along the same lines of, is it possible that we're going after some players on teams? We talk about the center back on Burnley. We talk about a few other players. These are players that are rated by the team that don't necessarily need to go. They have their valuation. It's just one of those things where it just takes a little bit more time because the type of target we're going after is not a gem on a team and a team needs that money, or someone that a Premier League team is looking to get off their books. It's a team that a championship team rates and they don't want to lose him, and they're kind of holding out to say, can we keep this guy around or can we get more money? So it is interesting to see how it's going to play out that way.
This is where we haven't got the chaps in the suits with the chops to actually get the deals done. It's easy enough to go to guys for Korea and Japan and Scandinavia and say to them, this is a step up. Come to Scotland, this is a step up. We'll double your wages. You'll still be one of the lowest paid players at the club, but we'll double your wages. You're now going to guys where you're going, aye, we can pay you this, but it's not as much as what you'll maybe get going to the English Premiership and all of that. You're dealing with clubs that didn't want to sell, whereas you look at Ida, it's probably the perfect example. Rodgers says after the Scottish Cup final that he wanted Ida. Where is it? Nowhere. Because Norwich are gone, well, we're going to start playing a bit hardball with you. The fact that Bernardo's no on the door says that we can't lowball these teams.
Right.
You have to start negotiating like adults.
Right.
And I don't think we negotiate like adults. And I think that's where we get into this point, and that's where we look. If we didn't get any players in next week, we'll more than likely we'll still beat Kilmarnock.
Right.
But that doesn't make everything all right. just because we bet Man City and Chelsea, let's get this in. We absolutely battered Chelsea the night. Doesn't mean that we didn't need new players. We need new players, and that is the bottom line.
Yeah, I'm not as one. I know it's something a lot of supporters are concerned about. I'm not as concerned that the success of this preseason or the calamity that's happening on the other side of the city is going to impact the board. I think they still see it, but I think what you said there is we got to kind of start acting a little bit more like adults, or kind of have the right men in the room. If we're saying we need to, stop spending at the 3 to 4 million mark, we need to start going to the 5 to 6, 7 million mark. That means we need to identify players that are at the 5, 6, 7 million mark and then pay 7, 8, 9 to get them in the door now. And it's not, and maybe that's where the disconnect is. And it's playing a little bit too risky, where after last season, it took a Herculean effort from Rodgers. You have to admit there's a collapse by Rangers that helped out there, but we eventually got us over the line.
My argument there was Brendan Rodgers won us that league because he absolutely
100%.
owned the Belgian wheel. He got him to collapse, and he kept your team. He kept your team on track.
Yeah, I like to see it as it was at Rocky 3, and that he was trying to just not ruffle anyone's too much feathers, and then that Hearts and his sideline band. And that was Adrian on the hospital bed saying, "Go and win." And then from that moment on, we've seen prime Brendan. And that's when that team went on the run. That's when we won it. And so for me, last season, Rocky 3 all the way.
Rocky 3. I always love a Rocky analogy. Right, CFC 878, thanks for the support of the channel. Another great performance resulted, but it's pre-season. The lack of signings is now a real concern. I think it is now. I think we're quite right to talk about this in the post-match go. By the way, first 60, the majority of that game tonight was absolutely fantastic. The first team looked structured. We look like we know what we do, but we have to do better, because there is areas in that team that need to improve. Tony Aiken, nice to see you, big man. Thanks for supporting the channel. And Uncle Nobby Steamboat, friendlies or not, these results will send shock waves across the city to that shambles of the club. You better not send them shock waves. They've got no steel. It might actually cause a bit of a collapse. We need to watch what we do. George Nicholson says to me, "Come on, Kev, and just enjoy that performance." I did. But it's done and dusted. We've got to move on now. We've got to be better to do what we want to do in the Champions League, which is, as I say, is no win it. Is actually finish 23rd and get into a knockout stage. Let's take it a bit at a time. It's interesting that HISC technology brings us up. Anyone not paying 30 million for Matt O'Reilly is demented. Mudryk got 60 million. Now, we would have qualified from a Champions League. Was it a Champions League group? Was it a Europa League group?
No, it's Champions League. Yeah,
that was Champions League. Difference.
Yeah, he was the difference.
Yeah. But there was nothing between us and Shakhtar and they 2 games apart for him. Mm-hmm. So, and it's quite, maybe he'll maybe regret going to Chelsea. I'm sure that he will, though. I'm sure his bank balance is no keeping him up at night.
Well, he's on an 8-year contract or something ridiculous over there. So I'm sure he's doing just fine.
Atalanta are doing what the marquee Atalanta are doing to Celtic, what Celtic do to everybody else, be underbidding. You could be right there. I think we've had a great US tour. I think it's been great for guys like yourself, Ryan, to see the hoops across there. I think we've done a hell of a lot of work off the pitch to create a actually bond with the Celtic fan, and we need to actually go back there more often.
I think so.
We need to actually go back more often there and build the Celtic brand across there. I hate saying the Celtic brand across there. So out of the whole pre-season tour, Ryan, what's impressed you most?
I just think personally, one, the support. I think it's great to see that. I mean, I don't know City chants. I don't know any of the Chelsea songs, but I didn't hear any of them. All I heard was the playlist coming from the Green Brigade or anywhere else in Celtic Park going through across there. So it was nice to hear that kind of, albeit a wee bit quieter, but it was nice to hear that. I think the foundation, I think, has been doing good work there, but on the pitch, it's just great to see. being away from their families for this long, traveling around, going to different areas and stuff like that, and expected to go to hospitals and go to JV Sports and then do all these things and play in that heat and travel and do everything like that. It's a good opportunity for the teams that come together, which is, I think, why we're a little bit upset that we don't have more players to kind of be a part of that. But I think the majority of this team came out of that better. And I think we have a lot clearer idea of who are those players on the fringes that we can maybe invest in, who are the ones that probably need to do what Boston Law did last year and go out on loan. I mean, we're talking about Home. I would love to see Home do an Iyer or a Christie and go out on loan in the league and then come back a year later and just walk right into our team. So I think that's the thing I've been most impressed with. It feels like, a lot of the same faces, but it does feel like a lot of the same places playing Brendan Rodgers football, not a Brendan Rodgers flair of the remainders of Ange Ball, which I felt like what we saw a lot of last season and why we didn't get the result.
We're going full Brendan, and hopefully we go full Brendan even more. Edward Diver comes in, spoken like a board member. I know I hate saying brand. I really do hate saying brand, but I've probably been conditioned to say it. The Beta board probably they've been sending me subliminal messages via my water supply. Maestro 95, Casper the Holy Ghost. I quite like that. I like Casper.
I like that too.
I
saw someone said earlier Casper the Friendly Ghost, and I like it just because he's done so well in these friendly games. So
I like the Holy Ghost. I think the Holy Ghost sounds, but it's up there with the Holy Goalie, the Holy Ghost. I quite like that. Right, I think we'll call it a night. Thank you to over the 1,000 who have been on. Ryan, you've made an absolutely superb debut. You've made I can't wait to get you back on. You're very intelligent, you know your football, and you've made my night very, very easy. Because at one point it looked like you were going to get me, myself, and I blaring to you. So thank you, Ryan. Thank you.
Cheers. It's been great. I've been listening to the podcast for many years, so it's been fun being on this side. So looking forward to doing it again.
Brilliant. Now, everybody, it's late at night. Go and have a wee beer. We are going at this moment in time. We are going to go into the game next week. Maybe weaker, or we've actually treaded water. But didn't let you have nightmares like that for, because just go away, have sweet dreams, because we absolutely battered Chelsea Football Club, and that's always worth smiling at. Hail, hail, lads, and dinna be bams to each other. Cheers.